You're listening to the Enough to Keep It Going weekly video games podcast, episode number 304 for the week that was in gaming for August 14th through the 20th, 2023. Now, without much further ado, let's get to it. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube. One of your co-hosts here on the Enough to Keep Going weekly games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube. Here with my partner in crime, Mr. Towmaster99. How you doing, Tow?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. I like the intro music this week. It reminded me of the old WWE intro music.
Very cool, very cool. So here we are yet once again conducting the podcast, and I am frazzled as usual with all the buttons, wheels, dials, and switches that I've got to flip. But we're going to kick it off as we always do with our segment one, our gamers experience for the past week and what we've been playing. So, Tal, I will pass the baton to you to get us started with the first game for the top of the night.
Yeah, so I actually picked up a new game last week. Actually, I picked it up, I think, Saturday before our podcast. I just didn't have a chance to play it yet, but that was Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen, or Dark Horizon. I'm not sure how you say it. And I picked it up on the Switch. It was like $5, I think. So I was like, that's a no-brainer. I was just kind of, tooling around the Switch store or the online store, Nintendo store. I was like, I kind of feel like playing something different. So I saw that. I was like, I've been wanting to play it for a while. So I was like, all right, I'll pick it up. So I've been playing that pretty much off and on all week. Kind of open world, third person, action adventure, or I guess throw RPG in there as one of the genres. So you kind of Skyrim-y basically, more or less, but you're locked into that third person view, so it's a little different. In Skyrim, you can kind of switch back and forth. I think most Elder Scroll games you can, or at least last couple. I had been playing Hogwarts Legacy, and I have been enjoying that, but I was looking for that more, I guess that's fantasy too, but more like dragons and orcs and elves and stuff like that. So I jumped over to that. I guess there's a little bit of that in Hogwarts, but not really too much. They don't get like too deep into it, not like in Dragon's Dogma. So I've been playing for at least 2, maybe 3 hours now total. I got through the tutorial, and now I'm just kind of I finally got into the open world. I can just kind of go and do what I want. So I've been doing that. One of them, I think, other than being locked in a third person, one of the other major differences I've seen is you get, and not that you don't have this in Skyrim, but you get companions, but you get like a companion pretty much right off the bat. And then you can get other ones as you're playing. You can acquire different ones. There's actually, which I didn't realize this, there's an area you can go. I think it's like in the towns or wherever. You can go into this like tablet thing, and it shoots you into like this kind of other world where there's all these companions. I guess these are companions from, I think there's player, I should say player. There's just like game ones, like AI companions, or they're all AI, AI created, game created companions. But then I guess people can upload their companions that they've been working on and that's just been using, throughout their adventures, and you can buy those. So, I mean, there's ones that were like, high levels, like, 50, 60, 70s. I was like, maybe I'll buy one of those. But yeah, of course, it costs a lot of money or a lot of in-game money. to purchase those ones. And obviously, you could probably just wreck through the game if you had some companion at that high of a level. So I just started off, and then there's, like I said, there's a few just game made ones. So I think I had one that they give you like right away, and then I was able to choose like one other one as I was starting the story off. So I did that. And now I'm just kind of, tooling around like I always do, just Skyriming it. If I see a quest that I want to, that someone needs to be done, I'll go and do it, or a mission or whatever. I'll probably do that a little bit more than not than, just going through the story like I kind of usually do in those type of games. So, but it's fun. You got your, you can, you could be an archer, you can be like all melee if you want, or, a magician. So I'm a mage right now, at least for now. Probably do like a mage slash archer kind of a build more than likely, and just kind of run through that. I was just kind of just looking for something to occupy my time for the next couple weeks until Starfield comes out. So I was like, I haven't really, other than Hogwarts Legacy, I haven't really played any like big open world games, and this one seems like pretty expansive, kind of like Skyrim. So I was kind of just drawn to it. So I'm gonna keep on with that. And this one, so this came out, I believe, a year after the original. Well, it's still Dragon's Dogma. It's not like it wasn't an expansion or anything. They basically kind of just, fix bugs, and I think they did add some new like armor and weapons and a few new enemies here and there. But story wise, I think it's pretty much, it was, from what I was reading, it was pretty much the same thing. Nothing too much to add to the story part of it. So kind of like, I guess you could say it's like a, game of the year or something like that, special edition. But that was released quite a while ago, I think, back on all the other systems, and it just came out to the Switch, I think, earlier this year, maybe last year. So finally got around to starting to pick it up. But it's pretty fun so far. Having a lot of fun, although I kind of screwed up on the customer creation or customization of my character. You can do like the prefab ones if you want. I kind of tooled around with, like, they give you a section, like right at the beginning, they give you, where you can customize it. So you can just do like basic, all right, here's the build, like just, you can like pull the little slider back and forth for just like generic overall body. And I think they kind of parted it out into like upper body and lower body at 1.2. But then I didn't realize you could actually hit like advanced settings or whatever, and you could like tool it, a little bit, go into a little bit deeper, do like the eye shape and, all that other stuff that, most of the games like that do. But I just kind of like blew through it for some reason. Then I was watching another video where the person like went into that because I was looking up something, and you could do like all these other things. So I was like, but I was like, whatever. I'm not going to start over now. So it's fine. It's it is what it is. But I'm sure I can get, as you put like the different armor and clothing on, that changes your appearance too. So that's not too bad. I don't have a big problem. I like that part more than like the body kind of customizations, because you're always going to put on like, the different armor sets and all that. So not a huge deal. But I just kind of look like almost like a Captain Picard like character with like a big handlebar mustache though. So I was like, all right, whatever, that's cool. But yeah, having fun with it, and I'll keep going on with it for at least for the next couple weeks until the big game comes out.
Now, are you playing docked or undocked?
I played. Did I play? No, I never played docked. Exclusively undocked right now. I was going to play it, I think, in midweek, but then something came up, so I didn't get a chance just to see, kind of like, and it looks fine when it's undocked. Like, I mean, it's a few-year-old game. Like, I think it was 2012 or 2013, I think, when it originally came out. So it's obviously a few years old. So playing on the Switch, it runs fine. I haven't seen any slowdown or even any problems graphically, like clipping or anything like that. So we're drawn. So seems to be running okay so far.
And you said in undocked, meaning handheld, right? Or
just handheld, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right, man. Well, very cool. Let's see. On to the next one, and I always mess this up because this dialogue on StreamYard is still weird to me. So I have been playing Dead Island 2. So we'll let the Let's Play that I posted recently play here in the background. So a game that came out earlier this year, April. This is me kind of struggling to figure out how to get through this door. So, because when you go around the corner, he talks about, smash my way through. And I'm like, in this first door, I'm trying to smash my way through. And then I'm like, what is he talking about? And that kind of highlights part of my, small nit with. So first of all, an incredibly fun game. Just kind of a zombie murder simulator, in that aspect. You get access to a lot of different weapons, but there are just kind of some ragged edges in the design that leave some gaps and kind of leave some holes. Meaning, so first of all, they pop a lot of tutorials up at you when you're in the middle of combat. And I'm like, if your intention was for me to pay attention to whatever message you just popped up and actually like learn or, whatever system you're trying to get me to understand, I'm not going to grok it right while I'm in the middle of combat. So there's one point earlier in the sequence that I've been playing through here where I was going through a mansion and I encountered a zombie with like a red skull icon over them. And, they were like, hey, beware of zombies with red skulls. They may, they're particularly dangerous and, will tear you to pieces. So first of all, I dispatched this zombie incredibly quickly. So they were not the challenge that the tutorial told me they were going to be in that particular instance. But the other thing was, I just didn't have any time to read that tutorial that popped up. Fortunately, it kind of popped up later when I had a little more time to read it. I also captured it during this Let's Play. And so, I was able to see it, when I played the video file back. But, they do things like that, throughout the game. The other thing that they do is, on a couple of occasions, I've been in mission structures, very big kind of combat set pieces that were, dangerous. And, in one of them I had to, replay several times. And they don't tell you, they don't, inform you like necessarily directly like what the mission objective is. So I just got the first time through, I just got a big kill them all pop up that came on the screen. And I'm like, okay, so maybe this is just like kind of horde mode. It's just kind of, I'm going to be assaulted by, recurring waves, kind of like a la Left 4 Dead. But there's like a battery pack on that level. And so, I grabbed the battery and I thought, well, maybe I'm supposed to, find a thing that will, that I could put the battery pack in to try to figure out a way to escape off the level. Nope, that's it. As far as I can tell, there's nowhere on the level for you to put the battery pack. And so it was just essentially a horde mode. But the only way I figured that out was like through trial and error. Now, sometimes trial and error is fun. Sometimes it's just frustrating. And so, there are these occasions where things like that happen. The second time around it happened, so now I understand, okay, kill them all means there's no objective. It's just, you're just going to be sent like a bunch of waves of zombies and you just have to, take them down and they're going to throw different types at you and things like that. But like I said, combat wise, the game mechanics are pretty good. There's, again, kind of in that feeling that, there are some great ideas here that just have some ragged edges and some kind of incompleteness around them. There are, you're going to go around the level and find fuel barrels. But I don't like, it seems inherently obvious that if you're going to find fuel containers around, that maybe a cool thing for you to have would be a lighter. But at no point in the game, at least so far that I've played through, do they give you a lighter. So you carry all these fuel barrels around, and there's no obvious way to set things on fire. And I've passed by numerous ones that, areas where, okay, clearly you should be able to set something on fire right in this area. But I wasn't able to. These you find water barrels around, and water barrels can be used in two ways. You either, here you see I've got this electrified crowbar, and so sometimes you could pour water down and then like electrify the water to set traps. In this instance here, you're going to see I'm going to pour water on this to get the electricity to arc from, that plug on the floor over to a frayed cable on the other side of the floor in order to energize like a door or an elevator or something like that. So, there are instances like that, but a lot of times, like there's just dozens and dozens of like water jugs all over the map. And like for every 100 jugs that you find, there's like 3 places where it would make sense to actually use a water jug. So there's elements of the design that just seem, kind of weird. But overall, I'm having a pretty decent time. There are some instances where I feel like the game takes itself a little too seriously, where it tries to do a little bit of a kind of Robert Kirkman thing. And I'm like, guys, this is, you are not The Walking Dead. I've got news for you. We don't need to paint this cut scene with like the level of gravitas that you're giving it. And so, by the same token, it's not cheeky like what's the game we keep talking about whose name I keep forgetting.
Dead Rising.
Yes, yeah. So it's not that cheeky, but there are just some times where I just feel like, it just, like I said, it tries to make things too serious, because there's definite points where there's a lot of kind of Saints Row style kind of dialogue to it, and that's what it feels like a lot of times. Now, that all being said, again, what a lot of people, I think, what I forgot and what a lot of people forgot is this is a game that was in development hell. I forget who did the first game, but this is a game that like went from Jaeger Digital to Sumo Digital and, one other developer in between, and then was like the IP was finally purchased by the publisher that eventually put the game out. I can't remember who the publisher is right now. And then was finally given to another group who finally got it out the door. So the game probably plays like 9 times better than it has any justification, right? Any reasonable, expectation for it to. And I'm having a lot of fun with it, just kind of going around the map. I still kind of get yanked out of the immersion by the fact that the game is called Dead Island and it takes place in Los Angeles, which last time I checked is not an island. But, in one instance, and it's been a long time since I only played the first one for a very short time. But in one instance, I think you do meet a character who was in the first game. So, maybe that's, enough of a reference back to, the older game. But in general, I'm having a ton of, a significant amount of fun with it. I put several hours into it over the weekend, kind of getting to and understanding the campaign structure. There are points, on the map where, once you've become familiar with the map and you know where you're going, you could just run. There are points where I just see way too many zombies and, a heavy in amongst them. And I'm like, I could probably fight that heavy, with that and maybe a couple of other zombies, but not with like 12. So when you know where you're going, you can just sprint and kind of get by them. I don't recommend running around the map when you don't know where you're going, because you can run and sprint into a throng of zombies and then just get taken out by the numbers. But all in all, it's a pretty good game and I'm having fun. Graphics, again, way better than they have any right to be. Particularly when, again, you compare it to, Jedi Fallen Order and things like that. When here's a game that just throws water effects and fire effects up, ad nauseum. And as far as I feel like, they are better water effects and better fire effects than the Jedi Fallen Order has, right? And that's a game done by a AAA team with a huge budget, led by arguably one of the greatest most significant leaders in the industry, for the last several years in Vince Zampella. So, but yeah, having a good time. Going to continue playing it. I think it's supposed to be like 25 to 40 hours if you mainlining the campaign. You could mainline it down on the lower end of that, and then some more time if you want to do all the side missions.
So that was Dambuster Studios who developed this one, which used to be, I guess, Free Radical, Crytek UK, and then now they're Dambuster. So they've got a good pedigree of 3D action games, first-person action games. So they did Time Splitters back in the day, and Crisis, and well, Haze, but I guess that wasn't that wasn't maybe their best game out there. Rise, Son of Rome. So
It's actually Rise on the Run. People have a lot of good sentiments about. I thought Haze was a game that was a lot better than it got credit for, and it just wasn't well publicized as well.
Yeah,
was part of its problem.
Yeah.
So you have one more game that we've got in the top order of the show.
Yes. Before I get to that, one other question I was going to have on that is, so, and this game is it kind of like Dead Rising, where you can just like pick up anything and more or less anything, and then kind of just defeat the zombies with, or beat the zombies with?
No, this one, like in Dead Rising, like if there's a shopping cart, right, like just randomly strewn about the level, you can grab the shopping cart and make that a weapon.
Right.
No, this is one where there will be specific weapons that you will find in specific areas, or will essentially be loot drops off of certain zombies, and they're weapons like this. They're not just complete rando, everyday household items. Like you can't take a bottle of Windex and beat a zombie over the head with it. There's I think you saw me using a crowbar, and there's workbenches in here, kind of like The Last of Us, but where you pick up items, craft items around the level. Sometimes it's a little ridiculous. Like it feels like you're harvesting like more stuff than you would like if you were playing Fortnite, and then you take it to the bench and you can upgrade like one weapon. So you do utilize those things to repair weapons. This does have weapon durability, so you do have weapons that are going to break. And then you can repair them at the bench, or you can scrap them and harvest them for materials. And then you can do upgrades. You also have to sometimes find blueprints in order to be able to do certain upgrades. So there's that element to it too.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out one day. I played a little bit of. Actually, it wasn't the original one, but what was the second one? It was like Riptide or something like that. I think I played.
Dead Island Riptide. Yep.
Yeah, I think it was free one time on Games for Gold on Xbox. So I tried it out, but I didn't get too deep into it. But yeah, I definitely want to check it out. So yeah, my last game, new game actually, which I just played yesterday actually, was Battlebit Remastered. So this is the it's more or less Battlefield, but you got the kind of blocky Minecraft-esque characters that you're using, and it's kind of blown up, I think, over the last month or a couple months or so, at least on Steam. I know it's pretty popular in Steam and just other places I've seen. So just you can do. There's actually a few different players or versus players you can do. So you can do 32 on 32. 64 on 64, or 127 on 127, which I haven't done any of those bigger ones. I think I've only done the 32 versus 32. It's just on a big battlefield, and there's different modes, pretty much like Battlefield and Call of Duty. You got Conquest, Domination, Capture the Flag, Frontlines, Rush. So nothing too different, at least on that front. But there are vehicles in I think it's the Conquest mode, and maybe some of the other modes too. I haven't used any of the vehicles yet, so I'm not really sure how those work. But just in general, just playing it as like I said, it's straight up just like Battlefield, old school Battlefield. Just with the blocky characters and movement's fine. Like I haven't seen any problems when I'm like running around the battlefield. And even though, well, I guess at least because I've only been doing 32 versus 32, the maps don't seem like super huge, so it's actually kind of nice. I would hope. If you go to 64 and definitely 127, they have bigger maps or different maps. I'm not sure yet, but because the 32 versus 32, it seemed like it was like a perfect size. Like, yeah, you had to run a little bit sometimes to get to the place where you needed to go. You can also like spawn into, like if you're doing like the domination modes, you can spawn into the different areas you're trying to control, or I guess Conquest too. So you don't have to go from like your original spawn point all the way back to the other side of the field. So that's kind of nice. And you can also spawn in on your squad. You get put in the squads also, just like in Battlefield. So I kind of was thinking about, maybe I'll pick it up. It's only like $15 on Steam right now. So, but then I had bought it for my son a few weeks ago. He wanted to play it with some of his friends. so he's been playing it. He's been playing for a while. But then he was asking me if I wanted to play. I was like, sure, I'll get it. It's only $15. But yeah, we were playing last night. Just having fun. Just running around. I can get actually pretty intense. I was actually kind of surprised. Like, gunplay is pretty good. You can pick your the infantry person or the engineer, just like in Battlefield, medic and stuff. So I was running around as a medic. I think near the end of my playing Battlefield, I think 1 maybe it was the last one I played. Like seriously, I think I tried a little bit of 5, but I never got too into that. But Battlefield 1, I started to go into the medic class and just kind of you can run around and you get a pretty good amount of points when you're at least in Battlefield, doing the medic and reviving people and helping people out. So I was trying that in here too, and it seemed a lot more hectic though. Trying to get to people, and then the one thing, and I don't remember if you could do this in Battlefield or not, but you can actually drag people. So if someone's getting in line of fire, you can just grab them, pull them back into cover, and then you can revive them. So that's actually kind of nice. That was kind of cool. I don't think that was ever in Battlefield, at least not in the last couple that I had played, but otherwise, yeah, just like I said, just straight up Battlefield, both like blocky characters. But like I said, I was having a good time with my son, so I'll keep playing it. And I believe it was early access, which, man, a lot of games I played lately on Steam seem to be in early access. I don't know if that's like the norm now, or obviously, you have the big AAA stuff is always going to come out, intact, but it just seems like a lot of the games on there come out on early access that I've been noticing lately that get like really popular. So I think there is a leveling system. I think I'm up to like level 6 right now. But I think you unlock weapons. I'm not really sure like where you can do that though, because just on the main menu, when I was looking at the weapons section, like it didn't look like I can like pick anything. I could just see like the weapons that are in the game. So, but my son when we were actually playing the game, he was actually able to go into the screen and pick different weapons for his different loadouts. So I'll have to try to play with it a little bit more to see how that actually works, and if you can only get to it on in game menus compared to the main menu screen. But I have to look up more on that. But yeah, just having a lot of fun with that, and it's just like a old Battlefield, just get in there and shoot and get out and get killed and just go back in there. So it's pretty good fun right now.
Now, one of the things that I've seen and that I've heard about the Battlebit community is that you're not really expected to go in the game and be sweaty. Like I've heard or seen that's like kind of considered offensive. That I guess there's like a mantra that game is not for like the sweaty Call of Duty players to be coming over to pumping up their KD and being movement kitties and things like that. Like it's a game that for casuals, and people like really get aggravated when non-casuals are in there playing. Have you kind of seen that and been exposed to it?
Out of the I probably played like a half a dozen games, maybe a little bit more. And it was kind of like every other one where I was like, oh, we're doing pretty good, and I was getting a good amount of kills, and then we just get like absolutely wrecked the next time. So I think it's a good mix of people in there right now. And like I said, it's so early right now. I think kind of people are still coming into it and figuring out like what it is. So I think for right now, at least, it seems like it's a good mix. Like I said, though, when I was getting wrecked, I was getting like absolutely like just demolished. But also I was playing the medic, so a lot of the maps that I played into were kind of more sniper centric maps. So like a lot of tall buildings where you can kind of just look down on people and pick people off. That's what my son was doing. I think the last few games we played, he switched to the sniper. So I'm assuming if I switch over, like I could probably do a little bit better. But I kind of like playing the medic. I kind of like being able to revive people and doing that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, definitely, like I said, a good mix right now.
All right, then. Well, let's go ahead and move on to segment 2, running down the weekly news that we chose to put in the rundown tonight. So the first story comes to us from PC Gamer, Chris Seswick. Intel retakes some CPU market share from AMD as CPU shipments tick upwards. There's some new cause for optimism in the struggling CPU market. Just last week, I wrote about a hopeful rebound following the release of data by John Petty Research. Now new figures from Mercury Research further point to signs of a market recovery in the second quarter of 2023. According to Mercury Research, Intel gained 3 percentage points of market share, coinciding with a 3 percentage point drop for AMD. So the reason that I was covering is to kind of talk about like the ongoing war that always wages between Intel and AMD, and it, often impacts gamers by the way it's reflected in the products that they roll out, things that they're prepping. AMD, I also saw this week, is working on drivers and prepping to roll them out for their next generation of CPUs, which will be in the 8000 series. So the 7000 series chips are out now and came out, I want to say, I think the tail end of last year. So there are discussions about these 8000 series chips launching early 2024. So that'll be interesting. I don't know if that will wind up in my upgrade path because I have a 7000 series chip in one of my PCs now. But Intel doesn't have the things in the gaming space that AMD does. It doesn't have the consoles. AMD obviously provides those for both Xbox and PlayStation. It's going to be interesting to see what Nintendo Switch does next year. Paul's Gaming Live, who often comes through here, mentioned to me that, pointed out that there's been business intelligence that says it's likely to be a next generation NVIDIA chip that goes back in the Nintendo Switch 2. But it's a big shooting match, right? As to who's gonna wind up getting what. Obviously, AMD has traction in the space, but you have things like Intel Arc that's out there now, where Intel Arc is not really competitive in a lot of cases against AMD Silicon and NVIDIA, but it is very low cost. So that might wind up becoming attractive to somebody looking to put out a new console. We'll have to see. But the thing that's been going on here back and forth between AMD and Intel is, as you go from month to month, right? Lots of times AMD has been selling a lot of chips for gaming enthusiasts, particularly with their X3D variants of the CPUs. So, seeing here that Intel is, Intel has been leading the market, and maybe will always lead the market. But where they often wind up losing is when you isolate the market and scope in on the gaming enthusiast parts. Lots of times AMD winds up taking that market share. So, this article just caught my eye and was kind of interest. Tao, any comments on that?
No, nothing right now. Seems pretty straightforward.
Did your PC that you have, does that run on Intel or AMD?
That's Intel,
CPU.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Next story that we have in the rundown is Titan Quest 2 being announced. So this story over on PC Gamer as well. I'm not going to play the trailer back, but it's titled. The title of the article is here's a trailer for Titan Quest 2, a mythological action RPG sequel 17 years in the making, by Jonathan Bolding. Mythologically inspired action RPG Titan Quest has a sequel on the way in Titan Quest 2, announced yesterday by publisher THQ Nordic and developer Grimoire Games. The sequel will take place in the same world of myth in ancient Greece, and the big bad this time will be Nemesis, goddess of retribution, who's ready to corrupt the very threads of fate in order to do whatever evil thing she wants done. So first of all, that's going to spool me off to Google to find out, is that a real god? I wasn't aware that there was a Greek god named Nemesis, but it'll be interesting to look that up. Or if there was any god of retribution, and what that god's Roman equivalent was. So that's something I'll go off and look up just out of curiosity. But this announcement combines a lot of things that I personally like. I like THQ as a publisher and the games that they put out. As a developer. I should say Embracer Group and THQ Nordic. How exactly they have publishing split up, I don't know. So we'll just ascribe it to THQ Nordic. I, in general, like the things that they do. I'm a big Titan Quest fan, so Titan Quest was a game kind of at a time where it felt like only Diablo was kind of doing the thing that it does. And so it was nice to see another variant of that out on the market set in a different setting. And I love Titan Quest. So it's I'm very pumped to hear that that a Titan Quest 2 is on the way back. I can't remember if they said when this thing would be coming out. I don't think they mentioned.
I'm looking too, and I don't see anything.
Yeah, usually there's the blurb in the article if they haven't mentioned it that says, no release date was mentioned, but I'm not seeing that. Not seeing that either. Maybe it's in there, but I'm just blown by it. But Tao, any experience with the Titan Quest games and any interest in Titan Quest 2 coming back?
No, I've never played them, but I definitely want to jump back in because they're I guess Diablo-like, right? Just kind of that isometric kind of loot. I don't say loot, but that kind of type of game. So yeah, I definitely want to try it out. And I do like kind of this period of time to the Greek and Roman mythology stuff. So it's definitely something I want to jump into. And I can't remember. Was this? I know THQ Nordic had their kind of like I guess their digital direct or whatever. I don't know if this was part of that or not. And I know they had announced a few other games too.
Yeah, I believe this did come out of that.
Oh, okay, yeah, like a bunch of other games. And then I know Rec Nation was a part of that too, which I think had been announced a while back, but I think they showed a little bit more of it. Destroy All Humans and a few remakes and stuff. So yeah, just kind of nice to see that they're still plugging away and making different. I don't want to say like lower tier games, but it's that like I forgot what we always called it, like
Double A.
Double A developers. So that's nice that they're still going out there.
Very cool, man. So next story in the rundown is you have a story about good old Xbox.
Yeah, so and this is actually from Xbox news.xbox.com. Xbox is going to introduce, or actually already has introduced, a new enforcement strike system. And this is basically covering, you'll be able to see now, because I guess you couldn't before, when people report you on like, if something happens or anybody, you can actually go into a site now and see like, oh, hey, I got this many strikes on me. So there's a new strike system that they have, and you'll have up to 8 strikes in total you'll get. So say like you have 2 strikes, you might get like suspended from the platform. And I think when they say platform, I think they just mean the online platform, and I'll explain that in a second here too. So they'll say, you got 2 strikes, you get suspended for 1 day. You have 4 strikes, you get suspended for a week. And then if you do hit that whole 8 strike limit, then you get suspended for a year from any social features on Xbox, like messaging, parties, party chat, and any multiplayer. So I'm assuming you'll still be able to play. I'm assuming you'll still connect to like the Xbox server and be able to play stuff, maybe that requires an online. They didn't really go into the details on that. I didn't really see that in other articles I was reading, but I'm assuming you'll still be able to play like just something that, has to have like an online connection, say like Diablo or something like that. So, and then, so like I said, yeah, there'll be a website, which I don't think there was before, that you can actually see, and they give you a little bit of an example in this article of what that looks like. It has just like kind of a meter where it has like, a tick for each strike. And I guess kind of like, if you actually actively suspended, like why you got suspended, there's just kind of like on this example, it just says profanity, 1 strike. So, it tells you what happened. And then also for suspensions and maybe how long you have for that suspension before you can, start playing again. So, and I know before, like, you could always report people, but I don't think there was ever a place you can actually see anything on that report like that happened. And I'm not even sure if you can still see that, but at least you can see stuff on your own strikes or reports if anything happened. Anybody tried to report you for anything, which is, I guess that's kind of interesting. And then the other thing on here, there was one thing in the article which when players believe they have witnessed a violation, hold on a second, I'm sorry. So it seemed like in the article that there's no there's no like auto generated, or I guess you want to say AI or whatever, reason to be, to get a strike or to be banned. Like, I guess someone actually physically, looks at these strikes or looks at these reports, I'm sorry, and and then decides like, hey, this person gets a strike or doesn't get a strike. It was, dismissed or whatever. So, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, well, I would figure they'd get a lot of reports, and it just seems kind of weird to me that they're going to actually have people like looking at these things. Like, but I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know. They give us a few statistics here in 2023. They said fewer than 1% of all players received a temporary suspension, and out of those, only a third received a second suspension. And they go on and say that the data shows typically, once they, you hit one or maybe two, enforcements of being suspended or whatever, like most of the people are, fine after that. So, but I don't know. I would figure there's a lot of reports, like I said, a lot of reports coming in, like just having like a few people or one person. It didn't like, I guess there's a group that does it, but it didn't say like how many people are in that group or anything. It doesn't go into that specific, but I thought it was kind of interesting that an actual person will go through and look at each of the reports that come in and decide whether or not, they're going to act on it. Or so I don't know. But so that's the new strike system. It did start last week, and this article is on the August 15th. So everybody started at 0 strikes. And then you'll go on from there for a year or whatever. And I guess it just resets after that. So just kind of an interesting thing that you don't hear a lot about this kind of thing. I mean, we hear a lot about people wanting to have enforcement and stuff like that, but here's actually kind of laying out a little bit of at least how it kind of works on Xbox. So I don't know if you were able to read the article, or if you read anything else on this at all.
No, I didn't. I didn't follow up. I mean, I'm not somebody who has any concerns of getting a strike. So I feel like, those are the people who really need to read the article and understand all the ins and outs of it. The thing I was going to ask you is, does it say, or were you able to tell from the article that those 8 strikes, because you mentioned that they reset, do they reset annually?
It looks like, yeah, I thought it said, but I don't see right now in the article.
Okay.
I have to look it up while we're talking here.
And then are they consecutive? So like you get a hit, right? You behave better, but then you get another hit. So at that point you have 2 strikes, right? It's not like you get a strike, you behave better, you get taken off probation, and then the next time you get a strike, the counter starts over. Right, they just
it says all strikes received stay on the player's record for 6 months. So I'm assuming, yeah, if you get one and then say you're good after that, and then you get another one, I think that previous one, say you get another one like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, that the other one's still there, so that would be a second strike then.
So that just seems like you could game the system and just get 7 strikes in a 6-month time period.
Yeah,
and then run it right up to the line
for a little bit. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I mean the thing that I've seen, from some prominent personalities is, to suggest that like this is too little, right? That it's why does a person need to get as many as 8 strikes before you really get rid of them? Like, shouldn't it be like a smaller number? So
yeah, I'm assuming they have like statistics on how much they've got, how many reports they've gotten. Like I said in the from the previous year, it seemed there was a small percentage supposedly anyways. So yeah, I don't know where they got the 8 strikes in total, but I guess they got to put some kind of number on it, I suppose.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. I mean, for Microsoft and really any other large companies, Riot, I throw in there just because, so for them, not that they're that big, but, everything that they do in general is some type of big, multiplayer thing that, has chat supported. And, in those Riot games are often on, the big hit list of, the place where you find the most offensive people. So one of the things I've mentioned and that I don't understand entirely is, and in Microsoft's case, I know that those things at the end of the day, those things need to be reviewed by human beings. It's the same case, right, on Facebook. It's the same case with Twitter. And I do want the final judgment to be rendered by a human being. However, it seems like in the spectrum between the person reporting it and a human being making a final evaluation. It feels like a lot of those things could be addressed with, AI, machine learning, natural language processing. It seems like you could, listen to a chat. You could have a bot paying attention to chat, and when it heard, offensive things, the third, fourth, fifth, or sixth time, they just nuked and disabled that person's ability to chat, like right then and there. Like, and for them to get it back, it has to be reviewed right by a human being, or you just, or you just keep their chat killed, for that match, or as long as they're online for that session, and then, they get to start over. But I would like to see, more advanced technologies kind of brought to bear on this kind of thing.
Yeah, I know. Like in excuse me, like Rocket League, if you quit out of matches, ranked matches at least, I think at least like 2 times in a row, then you get like immediately banned, or not banned, you get immediately suspended for like 5 minutes, I think it is, and obviously if you keep doing it, it bumps up the time limit. So, but yeah, every company's gonna have their own, I guess, kind of enforcement. We've seen that too, where other games, I think Call of Duty, I think on the PC, or maybe Battlefield, they like put you in just in games of like other people who've been, had strikes against them or have somehow been.
Yeah, they put you in the loser ring.
So you got a bunch of
all the bad kids hang out.
Yeah, bad people or cheaters or whatever. So they're all just in one big game. So I guess it works. So.
All right. Next news story in our rundown is over on Eurogamer by Ed Nightingale. Batman Arkham Trilogy on Switch gets release date. Rocksteady has announced the release date for the Switch version of its Batman Arkham Trilogy, out 13 October. That's a Friday, unlucky for some, though not for Batman fans and Switch owners, as this is the first time the games will be available on Nintendo's console. I want to say, I think this is also a series of games that's not verified on Steam Deck, I think. There's some game that's coming that I've been looking at recently that is coming to Nintendo Switch that isn't playable on Steam Deck, right? So it's a good thing for people who are looking for it in portable format. I can't remember if it's this series of games, or another title. Hopefully I'll come back across it in the next week. But yeah, this is pretty cool for people who are primarily Nintendo Switch players who look, right now Xbox and PlayStation are kind of feasting and cooking up some interesting competitions as we look at going into a weekend where both Starfield on Xbox and Baldur's Gate 3 on PlayStation are going to launch over the same weekend. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Forza Motorsport is coming out in October. And Spider-Man's coming out in October. So you've got another, heavyweight bout kind of waiting in the wings. And Nintendo people, I don't know that they have, I think they have things to look forward to, but I don't know that they have anything, that is big, meaty, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how I can articulate it, but well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, other than Red Dead Redemption, which is out, I think came out a few days ago, that port over to Switch came out, but this is another thing where, we're a big game that's going to be, of interest to people. Not a new game, but Nintendo Switch is a place where at least I and other people on the market will play PC ports, and that's why companies invest money in continuing to put those games on the Nintendo Switch. So this will be a good thing, for them coming out in October. If they're not a person who's skating towards the games, big games that are coming out on Xbox and PlayStation. So we got a few people in chat. Newtonian, hey Newtonian, thanks very much for swinging by. I appreciate you. Bulwark Country is in the chat. Mario Wonder comes out the same day as Spider-Man 2. Yeah. And I was kind of struggling with exactly how I wanted to articulate that. Nintendo Switch people have the mainstream consumer on Nintendo Switch who looks for big first party games, and I don't have the Nintendo Switch fall lineup memorized either. They definitely have things to look forward to. There are other consumers, other demographics on the Nintendo Switch who look for games like this, right? PC ports of games that are coming to Nintendo Switch. And my point was, if they're a player who's not going after the big PlayStation and Xbox titles, it's nice that there are, some more, I guess I would say, PC oriented or PC centric or, non-Nintendo first party games that are also slated to come on to Nintendo Switch this fall as well. Tao, are you planning on picking up any of the planning on picking up the Arkham trilogy on Nintendo Switch?
Probably not right away. Maybe eventually. I played a little bit of Arkham Asylum back on the 360, and I enjoyed that. Kind of more interested on the other two, City and Night, just because they're kind of the more open worldish. I know Arkham Asylum was kind of more contained, obviously in Arkham, in the insane asylum prison. So, but yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, and that was the first time you see that kind of combat where you kind of flip back and forth with people, and you kind of see it everywhere now. Assassin's Creed kind of does that, and you saw it in what was the Lord of the Rings one? I can't remember what it was called now.
Yeah, Shadows of Mordor.
Shadows of Mordor.
The sequel.
That was Warner Brothers too, I believe. So that kind of made sense. But yeah, I kind of like that style where you can kind of just like flip back and forth to people, and it's just like a stick movement, and then you jump to somebody else. So, but yeah, eventually I'll probably pick it up to play them.
Okay, Newtonian Chatspin says I'm getting Spider-Man 2 and Mario Wonder Day 1, LOL. Yep. I was engaged with some discussion of people who seem to feel that, that the reason Larian Studios didn't put Baldur's Gate on the Xbox right now is because they were afraid of Starfield. I think that's a little bit overly complimentary and in particular not really in line with kind of the way Larian Studios kind of approaches games and deployments and their very subdued expectations that they had on how well Baldur's Gate 3 was going to do. I don't think, given the numbers that Larian Studios thought they were going to be doing on Baldur's Gate, that really Starfield was really going to be a consideration of competition on Xbox. So I don't know that the deployment date of Xbox had anything to do with Larian Studios' decision making. But it's just interesting, that again, when games are coming out, how things are lining up in the fall, and it'll be interesting to just kind of see how everything plays out. Tao, yeah, you do have the next news story about Netflix.
Yep, last one for the night. So Netflix is jumping into the cloud gaming service, at least on a trial basis. They're going to be launching a limited beta to the UK and Canada for their the game streaming service, cloud gaming service, and there'll only be 2 games that'll be playable, Oxenfree, developed by Night School Studio, which they acquired a couple years ago, 2021, and then Mulhew's Mining Adventure, which I'm not familiar with Mining Adventure. I've heard of Oxenfree before. And you'll be able to play those 2 games, at least in UK and Canada, on Amazon Fire TV, Chromecast, LG TVs, NVIDIA Shield TVs, Roku devices and TVs, because they have TVs also, Samsung smart TVs, and Walmart ONN, which I'm not really sure what that is, but and then there'll be more devices that will be added later on, and then later on you'll also be able to do the beta on PC and Mac via browser, and then in that case you'll also be able to use a keyboard and mouse to play those games. So really, I guess just the xCloud is really I guess there's a couple of PC streaming services too, I think, out there still right now.
Well, there's GeForce Now. Yep.
Yeah, GeForce Now. I couldn't remember that one. So they're putting their foot in there, and kind of makes sense since they've been acquiring studios lately, and they've been doing like kind of the mobile gaming right now, where as long as you have a Netflix account, you can log in to their mobile game app with that, and you know they have a bunch of games that you can play as long as you have a Netflix account. So, which I've done. I think I've talked about a couple of them here on the show. But like I said, it kind of makes sense. I guess they might jump over into gaming because you know they obviously have the streaming infrastructure in place, and a little bit different, I guess. You know, as far as what's going, you know, what's being streamed, but you know, still they have the infrastructure there. So we'll see. I guess they didn't mention if they're doing any other countries at any other point, but I'm assuming they probably expand it eventually if it does well enough. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, the interesting thing will be what their content lineup's going to be, right? I mean, Netflix has already said that you know it has no intention, and there's Amazon Luna out there too, as well as a cloud-based streaming service. You know, Netflix has already said that their intention is, you know, they're not trying to take on Microsoft, they're not trying to take on Nvidia. They're planning on putting something in that's a complementary service to the convergence of demographic that they have of people who consume, you know, streaming television, right, from Netflix, but are also gamers, and so you know, and they're pursuing, like I said, to see if that kind of convergence customer lands in a place where you know a strength gained in the adjacency to video streaming, you know, cloud game streaming, you know, would provide traction and engagement from those customers. So, but my question is, you know, well, how big of a game are they ever going to make, right? Or is everything going to be, you know, like we were just talking about recently, kind of double A at that Oxenfree level, and you know, as long as it does, it's not. I mean, for me, it's not something that I'm going to necessarily be bothered with. You know, for us, because you know we have 9 different ways that we could play and access content, and you know, if I wanted to play Oxenfree, I would just download it right on hardware and play it that way. But yeah, as I always talk about, right, there are new consumers, new customers constantly coming into the market who this may not seem strange to them, right? I mean, I talk all the time about how my kids, like, that is their life, right? I mean, the common way we have grown up consuming content is just kind of foreign to them, and you know, for you know, people who consume gaming primarily via tablets, for them right now, I guarantee you, if when they are on a television, which, you know, they watch content now on a TV with an Amazon Fire Cube hooked up to it, I guarantee you, if they went into the Netflix app, right, on the Fire Cube, I think it's Fire Cube, yeah, on the Fire Cube, you know, and you popped up like a split screen, you know, where you know, it would be, because Spotify does this, right? Spotify now, when you go into the entry screen on Spotify, I can't remember if Amazon does it, but Spotify does it, and I kind of find it irritating. They kind of give you the split screen, a split tab to tell you to choose, you know, music or podcasts, and I'm like, look, first of all, you guys are pretty good, right, with your learning algorithms. You know that I predominantly consume music via Spotify. How about you just default me to the music side, right, when I enter the app? And if I really want to go listen to a podcast via Spotify, I'll just make that conscious decision on my own. I don't really need you putting that in my face. But, you know, but my kids, right, I guarantee you, if you give them a screen that says, you know, television, you know, video content or games, you know, that will at least pique their curiosity enough that they would go, oh, huh, you know, and they would at least go over to the gaming tab, you know, which, you know, again, if they have consumers who have behaviors that are similar, you know, that might be a way for them to kind of gain traction in that space. So it'd be interesting, like you said. All right, Tal, anything else for news this week?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, let's head on over to our final segment of the show, kind of wrapping up our gamers experience in terms of what else we have been playing this week. And I will start us off in segment 3 with this game that I've been playing, Trepang 2 on PC. And so we talked about this a few weeks ago. This game is a shooter, kind of in the style, very much in the style of Fear. and it makes some interesting choices, as I talked about in terms of its game design. It does not allow you to utilize ADS, aim down sights, which for me is just really a very draconian, abrupt, disruptive design choice, because I've been playing with aim down sights for 20 something years, right? And now you're asking me to play a shooter without it. That being said, the game, as you settle into the game, you eventually kind of get accustomed to not having it. There was also kind of some confusion on my part between, well, how do you eventually get access to ADS? I thought it was by completing the game, but it is actually, and then I thought it was, oh, well, maybe you have to put the game on hard to be able to activate ADS, which is listed in the game in the cheat menu. But it's actually, there's like one side mission that you have to complete on hard, and that's how you get access to ADS. So I've actually completed this game. It's only about 4 hours or so, 4 to 6 hours. So I completed it, did all that, only to find out that still didn't give me access to aim down sights. So kind of the same commentary here as, or very similar commentary as Dead Island. There are just some points where you're like, okay, this is cool, but what exactly am I supposed to do on a given level? Sometimes like on this level here, which is, kind of getting closer to the end game, but like there's this rock, which is supposed to be kind of this alien material, kind of like in Half-Life. And then there are these 3 power panels that you need to disable, but they have some type of weird, like ghost-like thing, people that, stand in a throng and kind of act as a barrier to you getting to it. Then you defeat these waves of soldiers, and then after you do, then this arc of electricity ball like spools across the room from like some source, and then goes to in front of the power panel. So, but when that happened, I'm like, okay, my natural instinct is to not walk through arcing balls of electricity. That just seems like not a thing that you should do. And so, I just wasn't, I wasn't driven to kind of walk through those things as the natural obvious choice. So it's just got some kind of obtuse, approaches to kind of level design and mission design sometimes. But the game plays well enough. It's not perfect. The level of graphical fidelity is a little better maybe than Fear. Maybe it was I think they did 3 versions of Fear, right? I can't remember if there were 2 or 3, but it plays, I mean, graphical fidelity, it feels like a skosh ahead of maybe the last Fear game. So it's not something that's going to like set your eyeballs on fire in terms of how good the graphics look. But the game plays well enough. It's by an indie team, small team. I would kind of set my expectations kind of at that level. But I absolutely had fun playing through it. It does some plot twists as you get towards the end, and as you go into end game and go into the final missions. Throw some curveballs at you in terms of kind of getting through those missions. So, overall, pretty decent experience. Like I said, I did roll credits on that game earlier this week. And overall, had a pretty good time. It's a small indie title that is available on Steam. I'm not sure if it's in the Epic Store or not, but it's definitely a thing that I enjoyed, playing this year, and that I think I don't know if it's going to qualify for one of our superlative categories, but probably will be definitely a thing that we wind up discussing right as we do the Gaming Superlative Awards later this year. Just as kind of an interesting, quirky title, right? That I got a chance to play. Particularly in a year where I've mentioned that I feel like indies are not getting the attention that they need to or should, and there's a lot of good ones out this year. It's just really, really tough for them to gain any visibility to people with kind of all the big kind of summer blockbusters that are also coming out throughout the year. I didn't realize that I had the next one as well. And I'll bring that up here. I'm sorry, Tao. Any questions on Trepang 2 before I go on to talk a little bit about Baldur's Gate 3?
Oh, I was just say it could be your like surprise game of the year. Maybe I think we have that category in there, don't we?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be up there. I think. I mean, Baldur's Gate. It contends for that. Just because I'm just surprised by how much attention it's grabbed. But to the rest of the market.
Yeah.
So, but but another game that I've been playing has been Baldur's Gate 3. Again, Trepang 2 wrapped up sooner than I had planned. And I've been, cutting video and putting up some Let's Play videos on the Rounding Off Infinity channel this week. And so I had to kind of quickly adjust and flip over to Baldur's Gate 3. It's a big game that I'm just going to continue to pick at, here and there. It's, I don't play a lot of games from beginning to end. But, what I like most about Baldur's Gate 3 is just the ability to really choose paths that you're not dragged down, that you're not funneled down. Probably two of the biggest things that I've done in my playthrough so far is there is a major character that there's lots of things being written about now in terms of, what that character does and how they interweave into the story. And I actually did not allow that character to join my party. So there's a point before here, where you're seeing the gameplay, where you encounter that character and you're given the offer for them to partner up with you. And I told them, nope, not interested. And probably another major thing that I've done is there's another major character that, in some of my friends' conversations, that person is playing kind of a significant role in their playthrough, and I actually killed that character. So there's a point where you encounter them and they demand that you join them, and I said no. And I was kind of offended by the way they asked me. So the option you're given in the dialogue box at that time was join them or attack them, and so I attacked them. So it'll be interesting to see how my playthrough unfolds, given that, because if that person does remain a part of your party, there are significant events that go on as a result of them being there. But overall, I'm having a really good time. I talked about this a little bit on the Basement Radio Arcade podcast last Wednesday. Probably the two major things. I may not remember the second one, but at least one major thing that's kind of a negative for me is that a lot of the spells really are kind of obtuse to me. I mean, to the point where I'm going to have to go off to Google and read certain ones of these spells, because in a lot of cases, I think the main thing that bothers me is it's not very clear in the spell description when it's an area of effect spell, an AoE spell, whether or not it is a spell that you target, right, another person, and then the spell takes its area of effect around their vicinity, or if it is a spell that always targets you. Like, I think I have this one weird spell where the line of the area of effect is but from me to the person I'm targeting, and then it affects things on either side of that line. So because whenever I use it, I just get this really weird outcome, right, of who it affects, and I'm like, why did it affect them? But there are some spells that also, like, even though it allows you to target people, when you fire the spell, it impacts the people around you. And I'm like, okay, like we have these write-ups, and like none of these write-ups like make that very clear. So there are some things there that I feel like could definitely be done better. I get it. There's a ton of spells. Blarian Studios maybe just expected everybody to understand the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons rules and have how these spells work. But it's a little aggravating that like the only things that are like really patently obvious are the spells that are offensive spells, and maybe the spells. I mean, just I think the color code is green. There's just several of them that I'm like, again, definitely the area of effect unclear on, but also there are some that I'm like, is that a buff or is that or is that a debuff? Like it's just not clear on those. So I feel like those things, you know, they could do a better job on. But other than that, like I said, you know, I've mentioned on this show, probably the biggest thing in gaming for me is giving the player provenance. That's why I tend to have gravitated a lot towards the multiplayer games, the MMO style games that lets you kind of choose your own adventure, be your own role, decide how you're even going to play the game at all. And even though this has a story and objectives that you have to get through, it accomplishes kind of 80% of the feeling that I get from those types of games within a story, you know, a linear story with a ton of like side missions, because it accommodates you making whatever choice that you want to make. All right, Tal. Any questions on that, or are you ready to talk about Vampire Survivor?
No, well, I guess just kind of one. So you're playing on PC. Do you? How is like the gameplay itself? Like, do you find it? Um, I don't know how to ask this. I'm trying to think. Is it like, I don't want to say confusing, but is it more kind of management of like all the spells and all the things you can do, or?
Yeah, I would say once combat starts, it is very much akin to like a squad based kind of tactics game. So once combat ensues, it is very much to me like a Jagged Alliance, or which is a good example because Jagged Alliance 3 is out for PC now. Fallout Tactics, things like that. Which skate kind of in the direction of RTS, which it's essentially art. Well, let me take that back. It's a turn-based tactics game, I should say. Except you're not controlling major forces and armies and stuff, but you're controlling single individual characters. So I mean that's kind of the direction it kind of skews in. Again, once combat starts, it's not it's definitely not a Diablo. I've talked about before. You're not going to you're not going to get on a screen and just be kind of wailing away and bashing at everything on the screen. I would actually say the combat. Well, the combat allows you to be incredibly nuanced and incredibly precise about the way you want to approach combat. Because I talked about the spells, right? And the kind of the OODA loop that I go through as I'm going into combat is to, on a per character basis, decide, am I doing melee? Am I doing ranged? Within each of those, am I doing a special attack? Right? Am I close enough to engage with a special attack with one of the, because the special attacks with either melee or range will also have cooldown associated with them. Or do I want to use a spell? Right? That's kind of the three things. There's a fourth option for you to use kind of thrown weapons that also have an area of effect damage associated with them. The problem is that those are very indiscriminate, and so if you chuck them at an enemy where you have members of your parties in their vicinity, you are very likely to affect the members of your party as well. So, I wind up only being able to toss those grenades right when there's an enemy who's isolated, which quite frankly doesn't happen a lot because they are primarily melee based and they're going to just close and engage with the character. So, in fact, I've really talked a lot about that game, how I've felt like the geometry of the battlefield really doesn't matter that much on a planar level. Brap last Wednesday talked about how he feels like it does a lot on a vertical level in terms of elevations. But I do have to say, actually, the way I tend to approach combat is I tend to spread my characters out, for that reason, right? So that, so that if somebody comes at one of them, and I want to wind up, chucking a grenade or using those AoE attacks, I tend to have them isolated. Whereas that's one of my, not frustrations, but one of the limitations in Age of Wonders 4, which I've also been playing this year, which is a turn-based strategy game. very often, you want to use different spells and abilities, but you can't because the enemy has closed on you in a way that winds up putting different different units, right, of your army like in proximity to each other, right? So one of my spells in Age of Wonders 4 is Berserker, right? But the problem is that when you cast that on one of your melee warrior units, they wind up attacking people indiscriminately, right? So, which can include you. So I can't use that spell when my own forces are in vicinity, and just the way I kind of maneuver pieces around the board, it there are often situations where the enemy does things that wind up pulling my forces right into close proximity of each other. And so because I have that mentality in my head, and because like grenades work the way they do in this game, I tend to spread my forces out, along a horizontal plane if I'm not using elevation. So geometry does definitely play a certain aspect in this game, particularly when you talk about the spells that I've been talking about that have an area of effect impact, on the battlefield.
Nice. All right, yeah. So for my last few games here, I actually added a couple other games right before the show started. But first up, Vampire Survivor. I jumped back into that because it released this past week on the Switch. So I picked it up as $5. So not a big deal. Pretty much, I mean, it's pretty much the same game. There is 4-player couch co-op right now. I haven't tried that yet. I'm not sure if my son or my wife will want to try that out maybe one day, but just playing, single player and just kind of going through and unlocking stuff like I was before. It's kind of nice after playing it on, mostly on mobile. I played a little bit on my Xbox too, but I think the majority of the time I actually played on mobile on my phone. So coming back to Switch is, kind of just bigger screen, so it's actually kind of nice. But then you have also just regular control sticks, controllers that you can use. So, after playing it on there, I kind of, get how the game is. So, while I can't get I didn't get to the end or anything on the first stage, because obviously you do have to, build up your character, even though, once you die, you actually start over again. But, you can do the unlocks, buy the unlocks after each round. So I'm actually just kind of saving up my money right now, and just to buy, I think the most expensive one is like 10,000 coins or whatever the in-game currency is. So I think I'll just wait until I get, at least I can get that one, and then just kind of get everything else as I'm playing. But you start out with 3 or 4 characters, I think. So I just kind of switch between each one every time I play, and just kind of going through there. So just once again, this is probably one of my will be my superlative show, my big surprise of the year, because I just never thought I'd get into a game like this. But I've been having a lot of fun with it. And even before it came out on Switch, I would go back to it every once in a while, just play like a round or two. So and there's actually, I think I only played the first 3 maps, I believe, that you can do. I think I can't even remember how many maps there are, but there's a bunch in there. So I'll have to try out. I can try out all those other maps on the Switch now. And actually, I think I unlocked another 2 or 3 right now on the Switch, so I can always jump into those. And then any questions on Vampire Survivor before I jump into the last 2? No, okay. And then on PC, I played a couple games I've been playing kind of off and on throughout the year. Phasmophobia, I jumped back into that. I just played on my PC. I usually, actually, it was the first time I played just on my PC, with keyboard and mouse. Before I'd play through my headset, PC VR, PC VR headset, because I have Quest, but I do, play it through my PC. And but I was jumping in with my one friend and a couple, his cousin and another friend of ours that we know. So we just all jumped on the PC side, which I'd never done before. So I got little. It's kind of weird when you play like a VR game, and it's just obviously you have a controller and stuff, so everything's kind of hands on. It's kind of natural stuff you pick up with your hands in the game using the controllers. But here you got to use keyboards and mouse. So I was trying to figure out okay, how do I do pretty much 90% of the stuff I do in that game, just trying to figure out how to pick up stuff, how to use it, and just stuff like that. So that took a little while, but we got going, and we're playing through. They actually kind of revamped the game a little bit. They revamped the they have there was always kind of an unlock system where every time you go through a level, you get some money, and then you can go through and buy stuff. And but now you kind of unlock stuff also now after each. I think it's every like maybe 3 or 4, 5 levels. You unlock certain items that you can use in the game. So you start off kind of with bare stuff, the bare minimum stuff, and you have to unlock things as you level up after each gameplay. So that was, I mean, we kind of had a lot of stuff unlocked already as it was at the point we were playing before, but now you're kind of starting over, which kind of stinks. But I guess it's kind of nice too. You kind of work through playing the game again, so it's not too bad, I guess. And then there's I think they have some new levels and some new ghosts that they threw in there too. So it was kind of cool. And the one guy, I think actually his cousin of my friend, he is the first time he'd ever played. He actually just downloaded it right there because we were talking about it. So it's kind of nice to see him going through. I can remember those growing pains, just trying to figure out how to play the game as it was, and getting scared, and we're all like sticking together because it was kind of weird because you only get you didn't even have I think you got like one flashlight at the very beginning, so we all had to stick together. Because I mean, like if you're going through the house, and you can turn on lights and stuff, but a lot of times the ghost will, or the demon or whatever it happens to be, will turn off all the electricity, and so the lights go out, so you can't see anything, even if you put like the brightness and stuff up. But so we're kind of just sticking together until we were able to build up our money to buy our own flashlights at least. So we were just doing that. So that was fun to kind of go back through there. So not as creepy playing on just like a flat screen as it is, when you're playing on VR. Obviously, it's a little bit more immersive, but it was still, there's some jump scares, and you can kind of just hear like things in your headset, which is a little bit. Lately, when I've been playing VR, I was kind of putting on a headset before. I just plug in a headset, but now lately I just kind of been using the speakers on the headset. So even when playing it there the last few times, it wasn't as kind of scary because sound's not as immersive as when you have a headset on. So that was kind of cool experiencing that. And then the last one is Ready or Not. I've also been playing on PC. It's kind of that tactical like SWAT team shooter. So I've been playing more of that once again with my friend and his cousin and another friend of ours. So it's kind of cool having a full squad. I think before I think maybe only one other time I was able to play with them. Actually, it was a different group of people where we had a full squad. So it was actually kind of nice. So we had 4 going into. So then they have a bunch of new maps that they've put up there, and they've actually updated it quite a bit graphically and stuff like that. So it was actually kind of nice. Like even just like the menu screen, like when you're picking your missions and stuff, like when you have this like kind of big map that comes up of the city you're in, and I forgot I think it's a fictional city. It's probably something akin to like Los Angeles or something on the West Coast, California. But and then you just have different points on the map. But like the map was just like bare, like it was. I don't even think it had any kind of textures or anything on it. It didn't even show like a city. It was just kind of like the different points that you can pick. But now they actually have like kind of a rendered map, 3D rendered map, and you have the different points, and you can pick what you need to do. So it's actually kind of nice. And I don't know, we played a few different maps this time, and there's different modes in each level as you pick. So some of them you can only do like a hostage, or just going in there and and take out everybody or arrest everybody, something like that. But there's other ones that were they had all those modes, but they're like grayed out. So I don't know if you have to unlock them now, or if you just can't do them like at all. And I thought before, like if you weren't able to do certain modes, like it just wouldn't even appear in the menu. So I'm not sure like what's going on there. I believe it's still early access. Another game I was mentioning before about early access games. But,
yeah, I mean, I had the opposite memory. I had the feeling that like each map, like the various modes were always presented to you, but each map could only do certain ones.
Certain ones. Okay. Yeah. Maybe it had been a while since we had played it. So this past few weeks. So maybe So it's just kind of weird. But yeah, it's I'm still having fun. We have fun. We're going through there and just taking people out. And a lot of the maps now is like, I don't know if they like maybe it's just because we have all 4 people now. It just seems like the AI was a little bit smarter. Like a lot of times we would get flanked and people would come around behind us and just take us out. I was like, whoa, like where do these guys come from? So it's fun though to try to do all that. So keep on playing that for probably the next few weeks.
Well, it's good to hear that you got back to that because, of course, the E2KG crew got together and played that, and it was your guys' first time playing it. And because I had only played a few rounds before you all, but of course I was coming at it from the experience of having played like a lot of SWAT 4 back in the day, which that game is heavily informed by. It's basically the same game. I mean, the parts of it that are different than SWAT 4 are all of the things away from the actual mission, right? Once you're in mission, it's very much, SWAT 4 again. We had a good time playing then. So it's interesting to hear that, they've done graphical updates and some other changes. And, I'm focused on kind of crunching through, a lot of the new games that have come out this year that I have in an effort to avoid what the E2KG staff typically goes through, which is in November, we wind up having to hoard a bunch of games and then knuckle down for the last kind of 6 weeks before the Gaming Superlative show. Particularly, in these past years where we've ratcheted that show back to, mid-December, right before we get into the holidays. So
yeah,
it's actually now as I talk through that, I realize the three of us need to have a discussion, because with everything that's on the plate this year, I don't know if that's if that's the best schedule.
Yeah.
Definitely bear some thought. Yeah, might push that back into January, or push that back to, in years past we've often done that show between Christmas and New Year's. So this might be a good year to use every little scrap of time that we have. But it's good to hear that that game has gotten some updates, and there might be some space to squeeze back in a chance to go back to it, right, and kind of see how those things are. I've I didn't put it in the rundown, but I've actually had occasion to go back and re-log into Call of Duty. I had been playing a lot of Call of Duty mobile, but this past week, I think over the weekend, maybe I ducked my head into Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, right, the regular, full desktop version, and and they've made changes there. They've made changes in the UI. They've made changes in the menu system. They've made changes, in the game itself. And so that was, a lot of things that were positive. I know that nobody's ever. I think at the end of the day, nobody's ever happy with Call of Duty. So, but I appreciate them, making the tweaks that they make. So it's been good seeing that uptick as well.
Yeah, actually, after seeing the trailer for Modern Warfare 3, I almost went back into Cold War. I was like, should I do that? Because I know if I go back into it, I'm just gonna start. That's just gonna take over, because I love the Black Ops series. Like, I think I've said that in the past. Like, it's my favorite series in Call of Duty. So, and that one, I really enjoyed that one. So I might revisit it maybe in the next few weeks. Yeah,
no, I feel the same. I mean, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is the game that brought me back to Call of Duty after laying off for almost a decade. Tao, any idea what you've got coming up next? That's kind of in your playlist plan.
Probably still more of Dragon's Dogma coming up. Probably a little bit more of Vampire Survivor. I don't know if there's anything new that I'll be picking up this week. Probably not, more than likely. Maybe jump back into Phasmophobia too also. So play some more of those new maps and grind up the levels there in that game.
Yeah, I'm going to be going back to Fire Emblem Engage, which is a game that, I feel like I didn't spend enough time with earlier in the year. So I'm going to go back and get back into that. I'm also going to check out EA's PGA Tour this, in the next week probably. It's been interesting to see that game kind of come back to life a little bit after kind of some years in the doldrums, and definitely going to play it on PC, because that's the only place I've ever enjoyed playing any type of golf game. I've just never really grokked it on console. So I am going to go in and check that out. I know it is not, by most arguments, a good game this year, but just in continuing the theme of, trying to spend a little more time getting back into sports games and kind of getting them back into the menu, that has been one that's been kind of on my radar, looking to check it out. And, while things are, you could argue relatively quiet now before the storm of Starfield coming out, because I already have Baldur's Gate 3 on PC, so it's not necessarily a thing that's in my windshield, for this release coming to PlayStation 5. But yeah, those are the two things at least that I'll be checking out this week, and hopefully we'll make it on to the agenda for next week's show. But I think that does it for us. Tao, anything else you want to talk about?
No, just thanks for Newtonian and Borbor for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate people swinging by and hanging out in the chat. So please feel free to continue doing that. So for anybody who did come by and watch the live show, we appreciate you. For anybody who does happen to swing through and watch the archive version of this episode of the Enough to Keep Going Weekly Games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Please feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can just receive a notification whenever we post new content. We will be back next week as usual. Talmaster will be in the host seat then, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we look forward to seeing you guys then. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Play the games that you like. Come here to talk with us about the games that you love. Once again, my name has been Game Logic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, here with Talmaster99 on the E2KG network. Until next week, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. I said for me because I'm so used to saying that when I'm doing a live stream or a Let's Play. That's going to do it for us. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. We're out of here.